today Austin and I are be discussing a movie called Knives Out. This is a very more recent movie. Came out in 2019. It is an American mystery film, written and directed by Rian Johnson, which I found pleasantly surprising because I know he was the one who directed Star Wars 8, and I know that movie did not turn out nearly as well, well received as perhaps this one. So it was a pleasant surprise to know. And yeah, it follows. Basically, I'm reading from the Wikipedia. So if you want to go to Wikipedia article, you can also just read it from there. But, it follows a master detective investigating the death of the patriarch of a wealthy, dysfunctional family. And it stars an ensemble cast, which includes Daniel Craig, aka James Bond, Chris Evans, aka Captain America, and then you have Ana de Armas, who I think might have seen her somewhere. I don't. She looks familiar, but yeah.
I don't.
Jamie Lee Curtis, Michael Shannon, Don Johnson, so on and so forth. Oh, and Christopher Plummer. I skipped like a lot of the names, but there's a lot of people in this film, and then of course the late Christopher Plummer, who recently passed away.
Yeah.
He was also in Sound of Music, and he played one of the voices in Up, from my understanding. But anyway, that was a little bit of an introduction. Austin, how did you feel about this movie? General thoughts.
I really like this movie. It was fun. It was good. And very, very enjoyable to watch. It was a different take from what was usually out there, or usually out in the cinemas at the time, right? And I just thought this was overall a fun movie. Very engaging to follow along. It's a whodunit, right? But I think they kind of do a lot of twists and turns that makes you think. And it was just a fun watch overall. This is actually my second time watching it because I did watch it previously. So I kind of knew what was happening already. But the first time around, I remember just being taken for a ride just because of there's all of these things that happening that unexpected. And then until the reveal at the end. But watching it a second time, I'm able to see some things in hindsight and able to catch more things than I wasn't able to catch the first time around.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely fun and definitely worth the rewatch that I had. So it's definitely an exciting movie, and I enjoyed it immensely, I would say.
Yeah, as a first time, this is my first time watching it. And as a first time watching it, yeah, I also really enjoyed it. I really enjoy the whole mystery film aspect. It's something that really I'm kind of drawn to this idea of trying to figure out in real time what's going on in this film. And this film is really interesting because I feel like it deconstructs the mystery film genre or the mystery genre really well. Yeah. And of course there's going to be spoilers for this movie, so if you want to watch it, I highly suggest that you don't watch this until you watch the movie, because if we spoil it for you, it kind of ruins the whole point of the mystery, right? So I think what this movie was very interesting about was that it seemed like in the very beginning the mystery was solved. It was you find out that the patriarch, Christopher Plummer's character, I believe.
Yeah. Harlan Thrombey.
Harlan Thrombey, that's correct. Harlan Thrombey. He's his caretaker? Yeah, right?
Yeah, his
Fran. Nurse. No, it was Fran who...
Not Fran. It was Marta Cabrera.
No, Fran was the one who discovered him dead.
Oh yeah, Fran. Yeah, in the beginning movie. Yeah,
oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Fran.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So Fran, who's I think the caretaker of the house.
She's like a maid or something.
She's the maid, yeah. She discovers Harlan Thrombey throat slit on his couch in the upper study, I think. And it's uh-oh, we have a mystery on our hands. But then I'd say a third way through the movie. Okay, so basically after that it sort of introduces all the different family members of this dysfunctional family. And you're and then there was this whole interrogation scene, and the interrogation scene itself is actually, I think, really well done. It cuts in between like the different perspectives, so it's like the flow of the story is like there, but it's cutting in between the different characters coming in for the interrogation itself, which I thought was pretty interesting. But then, like, after that, after everyone's kind of introduced, and we find out this Marta, who is the nurse, Marta Cabrera, she has this sort of ability, let's just say that, to detect a lie, and in doing so, that ability is basically she can't really tell a lie, otherwise she will puke, which is we can talk about that a little bit later, but I thought that was like a bit convenient.
It's a condition.
It's a condition. It's a very convenient condition, especially for this type of story. But yeah, we can get back into that later. Yeah. So basically, after everyone's introduced, we and the detectives and the police officers. Wait. Oh yeah. Once everyone's introduced, we sort of get we see that we basically see what happens to Harlan Thrombey. That it appears Marta mixes up the dosages of the heroin and I forget the other medicine that he was supposed to.
It was the morphine and the actual...
Oh, sorry, the morphine, not the heroin. All right, yeah, I was going to say heroin's actually much worse. The morphine and the
actual medicine.
The actual medicine, yeah. Yeah, so Marta mixes up the dosages of the real medicine and the morphine, and then basically accidentally ODs Harlan Thrombey on morphine, meaning that like he only has like 10 minutes to live. So he basically is going to die because there's not going to be enough time for the ambulance to come.
Yeah.
And she can't find her the antidote for this.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever the medical term is. I don't remember. Anyway, yeah. And so she's freaking out, and then Harlan's like, all right, we need to come up with a plan that is foolproof and you won't be caught. So they come up with this elaborate plan, which involves him slitting his own throat. So Harlan essentially, like, kills himself. Commits suicide. So to sort of prevent Marta from being, like, accused of accidentally murdering him, manslaughtering him. Yeah. So yeah, essentially, after the third of the film, it's like, oh, like to the audience, it's like, that seems convenient. Like the mystery seems like to be solved, but because it's only a third of the film in, there's something amiss. There's something fishy, and then in comes Captain America, Ransom. He plays Ransom, who is the son of one of the characters. I don't remember his name, but essentially he's like the black sheep of the family, essentially.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't like him, and even his own family, they just don't like him. So there's a lot of
a stuck-up, like privileged kind of kid,
right?
Who
exactly.
enjoys the money of his family.
Yeah.
And doesn't really care, and is kind of flippant, but with the everyone who is of lower social status than him. So
yeah, definitely privileged, I would say. Like he acts it's kind of like that character. But yeah, and this is when, like, after he's introduced, is like when the real mystery occurs, because things don't add up. Things are like how did Marta mix up, because when she accidentally OD'd Harlan with the morphine.
Yeah.
Like, and she couldn't find her antidote. Like how did that happen? It's usually there. So then those sort of details come up later on in the film, and then that's where the real mystery is. But anyway, we can talk about that later. Austin, in terms of the characters, because I kind of like introduced like the beginning of the film is like the exposition that introduces all the characters.
Yeah.
How do you feel the film did in terms of introducing all the characters?
In terms of introducing all the characters, I thought, I think it was a, kind of a standard way, right? So it's, you have like detectives there and the private investigator Benoit Blanc, in the beginning, and we're interviewing each character, just giving them an introduction, right? So this is just like a show of who the cast is and who are our main suspects, and they line them up for us, right? They have the name card, and they tell us like each person tells us what they do in the family, how they are accomplished, their relationship to the father, but then we also see flashbacks to their time at the party, right? um, and they show us that and how what they kind of saw and what their perspective is. So I thought it was it's a very standard way, but it kind of plays to that whole genre, right? Just to say, okay, this is what
Mm-hmm.
happened, and these are who we're dealing with, and these are the potential suspects, right? Um, and then the what we think is the main character, Benoit Blanc. He's introduced early, and everyone is kind of catches on like who is this guy in the back, and until he
He's
reveals
playing
himself.
the piano note. He's like
Yeah,
ding.
exactly.
Yeah.
Which is kind of it has that air of mysteriousness, but it kind of also lends itself to kind of comedic timing when everyone starts to question like why is this
Mm-hmm.
guy here, and
Mm-hmm.
what's his purpose, and
Yeah.
he kind of reveals I've been hired. And he starts to take over from the detectives, and starts pressing and asking questions about that night, about what happened. But I just thought it was very interesting. How they go show go back and forth, and we kind of see different perspectives, right? So we go through you know Jamie Lee Curtis's character Linda, right? The
Linda.
oldest
Yep.
daughter, right? And we
Oldest
see
daughter.
her, and we kind of show her. When she's talking about her father and they celebrate the birthday, right? It's her surrounded by with her husband, and they're placing the cake down in front of Harlan, and then we go to Walt, right? The second, the other brother, right?
Yeah.
The other child of Harlan, and we see the same kind of scene happening, right? So they all try to show how they're close to the father, right? So we see
Yep.
him, his wife putting the cake, same exact thing, putting the cake down in front of the family. So I thought it was very interesting how we show different perspectives, and each family member is trying to show how close they were to the father.
Yeah.
Um, and it's also interesting, we also kind of see how this movie is, it's not political in the sense that it takes a stance, but it shows like the current events of the political times, right? So you have one family that is liberal, and then most of the rest of the family that leans conservative, and you have the one grandson who they all kind of describe as it's Walt's son, right? They describe it as like a literal Nazi because he's like or literal Nazi troll, right? He just goes on social media,
Mm-hmm.
and so it kind of have a reflection of this kind of the current events,
Yeah.
and that kind of leads itself within the movie, the time frame and the setting, it kind of weaves itself and also picks upon that depiction and just shows it as a background, which I kind of liked. It doesn't go too hard into it, but again, it kind of brings in kind of current events and reality into this world that we can relate to from this family. So, but the introduction, I think it was pretty fun. And we just, I mean, it's interesting, right? Just because we want to see who it is, and we start to think of everyone's motives and alibis and who it could be, because we know this is a murder. At least beginning, this is a murder mystery, and we're trying to piece together ourselves at the beginning who it could be, who has the motive, and how it could have been done, right?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I like the introduction, and the introduction, kind of other whodunit movies like mystery novels and whatnot, with the kind of the font and the typing, and even the setting, right? The setting is in like a mist, this big mansion, right?
Eccentric mansion.
Yeah, that's kind of like a Clue. It's kind of like Clue,
It's
right?
kind
Like
of
the
like
Clue
Clue.
mansion,
Exactly.
and
Yep.
and like Agatha Christie's kind of stories and mysteries. So it's definitely it plays like the whole introduction is gonna play on the trope just to get you settled and get you kind of knowing, get you have the expectations like, okay, this is a murder mystery, this is how it's going to go down. But they later twist it. But the beginning, very beginning, they kind of lead you in and try to tell you like this is what you should be expecting.
Yeah.
And that's what I like, how they did that.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I really liked how they introduced all the characters because you got to know like their motives essentially pretty early on, and like they all had like their own different meetings with Harlan, like the night before he was found dead, um, and then you realize that like each of them could be like a feasible like a suspect, right? And this is only after um, like like I think yeah, I'm not sure whether or not you got to you knew the full like as they were. I don't know if the movie portrayed the truth, the reality during the interrogation scenes when the detective and the police were asking them questions, or if it was like revealed afterward when Marto basically told them or confirmed whether or not they were lying because she can't. Well, she they can tell when she's lying, if, when she pukes. um, but essentially, early on, we got to know like all their motives, and like
Right. We
and
have
sort
to
of
see
like
what their interaction with Harlan, right?
right,
Just like
yeah,
what went down, with
except
them,
for Ransom,
except for Ransom. Right.
except for Ransom. Yeah, Ransom was the only one, and then you're like, Ransom.
Yeah.
What a character! All right, so we're
He
gonna
also
let's.
wasn't interviewed, right? He wasn't interviewed in the beginning.
He wasn't interviewed in the beginning. Yep. So, um, yeah, let's talk a little bit more about Ransom. So he's introduced in the very beginning, like we know of him, but he doesn't really enter the scene until like halfway through the film, when
Right.
the will reading is about to happen.
Yes. Hmm.
And he kind of like makes a grand entrance. It's like Captain America. I'm just kidding. It's Chris Evans. You know.
But yeah, I think they kind of play on that trope, or they play on
Yeah.
his character, right? Like this guy is Captain America, and we kind of like, at least at the time, we all know him as Captain America, this kind of upstanding. And I think they play to that, right? His character and that expectation, right? Because he comes in, and we like, okay, he seems like he's a terrible person and whatnot. He kind of is very aggressive and just like doesn't really care about his family. His family doesn't care about him. But he later kind of helps Marta escape once it's revealed, right? And then we kind of see him talking and whatnot. So I think that it kind of plays to our own expectation of him. Like, oh, this is a good guy. He's trying to help Marta and go through all this tough situation. But again, it plays on our expectations, and plays on what we know about who he has played in other movies, without bringing that up in this movie, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, it was. It's kind of interesting. Like once you see a character so symbolic in a different franchise, in like any future roles that character or that actor may have, it's just. It's like already introducing some sort of bias. You're like, oh, he's like he does a good job playing a good guy, and then this one he's mysterious and like he could be the bad guy. And to be honest, like I don't know what you thought about it when you first watched the movie, but my impression was like he's the most mysterious one. We don't really know anything about him. Like he's probably the baddie, but there's no way that this film is gonna make him the baddie because it's so obvious. Like to me, that was literally what I was thinking. I was like, is it Ransom? Like it's this dude? But it's like no, like there's no way because that's like way too obvious. So to me, I was like, I don't think it's him because I thought it was like too obvious that it would be him. Like I don't think the film would make it.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
I don't know if that's what you thought. I don't know if that's how you were thinking when you first watched it, but
Not that it was too obvious. I mean, it was obvious. I didn't discount. So at the beginning, I thought it was him right away. Right? I think, okay, it's the guy.
yeah, me too. I was like, this. I was like,
But then
this dude?
when he starts helping Marta, then I was like, oh, okay, maybe he's not. Maybe it was because we revealed that
Captain
we kinda
America, baby.
we see the revelation, right?
Righteous.
We see the revelation of what happened. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, it's kind of solved. So now the movie kind of turns its head instead of having a murder mystery, right? The genre kind of flip to kind of like her trying to escape and trying to get out, and we try to see her, how does she get out of this situation, right? So that's why I thought the movie kind of takes a turn, right, in that regard. So now we're instead of becoming a murder mystery, the movie kind of takes a turn to a different kind of genre, to like a drama thriller kind of thing, trying to see like how does Marta get out of the situation. She's not a bad person, right? She doesn't have that accident and whatnot, so she's still sympathetic, and now we're rooting for her to see like how does she explain herself, how does she get out of the situation that she's in. And she gets help from Captain America, who comes in and who's also sympathetic, and we see him. Oh, maybe he took a new life, is trying to help her, and just wants to pay the cut. So it's all because we already thought we knew what happened, that we kind of, I think I let my guard down. Like, okay, he can't be it because we already know who did it, and now we're going to see how he helps her and allies with her to fix the situation that she's gone into. But then in the end, it kind of reveals itself, and it goes back to a whodunit and original, explaining and whatnot. So it definitely flips ahead. But Ransom just definitely took me for a turn. I definitely thought he was it, and then again once we revealed it and I just thought okay, it can't be him because of what we know already or what the movie had explained. It seemed airtight at least, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then just a lot of twists and turns in this movie. So, but I think Chris Evans and Ransom, Chris Evans played the character really well. And it's just I think the director maybe he wanted to use Chris Evans just for that sake, but it definitely helped that he played Captain America before,
Yeah.
and now that he's helping it, I think it helped just for us to then it's like okay, this is Captain America, he's playing a good guy, and he plays plays like, oh, let me help you, let me here's what we're gonna do. It makes sense, right? Just okay, this guy is good, and he plays that part well in Captain America, so he he brought it over into this movie, and I bought into it, I believed it, and just like okay, yeah, he's there. And he doesn't show malice, right? Not until the whole thing is revealed. Then we see, okay, the story fall apart and things start to wrap up, and the more twist comes in, and things are revealed. So
yeah. I think I felt similar. I think I felt very similarly. I think the part where I was starting to feel really weird, like it was odd to me, was when he got after the chase, when they apprehended Ransom and they put him, they interrogated him, and basically he just confessed to like what Marta did.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well, that was easy.
Convenient.
Convenient. I was like, wait a minute. I thought he was going to try his best to like, I mean, maybe, please, right, like if they have their ways to interrogate and they can get out the truth, right? But like, it seemed very, to me, it just seemed very easy and convenient that he just like, oh, revealed everything. Okay, well, all right. Well, there's so much for, you're not going to get caught. But anyway, that might have been like a broker. It's believable. I can see it's believable because then the police could have cut a deal with him.
That was already at the end of the movie too. At that time, so they're gonna reveal it, right? Because he kind of told, oh yeah.
Well, we don't know if it's in the end unless you like look at a timestamp.
Well, that's true. Right, but what followed right after, right, was the whole reveal.
Right. So. That's true, but I guess that was when I just thought it was a bit odd. I was like, huh, interesting. Yeah, I guess there's something else I wanted to sort of comment on, like other than the characters. So in the very beginning, when you sort of see Martha's journey or path to the house, and trying to like follow Harlan Thrombey's instructions.
Yeah.
I really liked how each of the like, as the detectives were going, basically trying to figure out like that path, or going through the path that Marta was taking, like the mud footprints, and then like they went to the footage of the security. I like how she was like basically what's the word, like
sabotaging
the evidence that she created, that would suggest that implicate her.
Yeah.
So I did enjoy that, and then the little bit of the walling that fell off, the wood walling that kind of fell off, and then how she like threw it away, and it was like, oh yeah, like I guess like she's basically just like, getting rid of all the evidence that would implicate her, and then like I just like that reveal where the dog comes and you don't see it, and then like Daniel what's his name? Daniel Craig, James Bond. I forget his character's name. Benoit Blanc. Yes. Okay. He like looks down, and then like he picks it up, and the camera's still just in frame, and he kind of like just reveals to the audience, oh, here's some evidence.
Yeah.
And then it's like, yeah, Marta's like, oh my gosh, uh-oh. But yeah, I thought that was like a very interesting take, because it was like I just thought it was an interesting take on the whole like mystery genre, because like out of context, like it would seem like that she would be the perpetrator, right? Like she would be the one. Like
Right.
she's sabotaging all this evidence, and she's like, well, obviously she's probably the culprit, right? But in actuality, she's sabotaging because she wants to not be seen as the culprit. Which is like, it's like interesting. It like twists itself on it twists it like yeah, it twists itself, which I thought that was very refreshing because like if I were just watching, like if I had just walked into the room and I saw this girl like doing these like hijacking or not hijacking, sabotaging all this evidence, I would have just thought like she, as a mystery film, she's like the bad person, right? She's trying to hide.
Right.
But in actuality, she's not. She's good. She's just caught in between these unfortunate circumstances, and she's trying to avoid
Yeah.
this sort of situation, or the implications of this evidence. So yeah, I really enjoyed those scenes because it was like it was sort of refreshing. Like it's something I like hadn't really seen in a mystery film. Although to be honest, I haven't really seen a lot of mystery films. But it's something that's like pretty unique, at least recently.
Yeah, I would say so too. I mean, I watched a lot of like Monk and Psych. It's kind of like this like Sherlock kind of thing.
Yeah,
But
sure,
that's what
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Benoit Blanc plays kind of like a Sherlock Holmes character, right? He looks at his evidence and can make all these kind of conjectures, right, of what happens, right,
Yeah.
just by seeing
Yeah.
the evidence, right? But it turns out like there's another player afoot who is there, and we gotta get the mystery solved for us right near the beginning after too, right?
Yeah.
Once we see Marta's perspective, and I feel like it's funny because we think that at the beginning of the movie, or at least when we start the movie, the whole movie would star Benoit Blanc. Daniel Craig would be the main character that we'd be following along. But that's not the very case, right? The actual main character protagonist is Marta,
Yeah.
right? And I think it's funny because we see this change of perspective right when and there's probably symbolism and kind of overt, but when Benoit Blanc flips the coin, that's when there's a flip in perspective, a change of perspective. We see once that coin is flipped, we see the actual what happened,
Okay.
and then the whole story follows Marta instead of following Benoit Blanc and him interviewing each witness. Now the story flips and changes with that flip of a coin to Marta, and while this whole story, we see Marta's perspective.
Okay.
From there on, I thought that was really intelligent,
Clever,
really smart that
clever.
they do. And
Yeah.
it kind of, again, a flip in the genre, right? We're not following Benoit Blanc. He's not the main character. He's not the main star.
Yeah, yeah.
Marta is, right? We start to follow her and how she deals with everything. And, we were all invested in her story now. And Benoit Blanc is just in the background trying to piece together. And she's in this story, but she's trying to, like, there might be another TV show with Benoit Blanc, but we're seeing a different perspective of we're seeing the suspect, Marta, and how she goes about it. And we're now invested in her. We're rooting for her, even though we saw her, how she killed or how Harley was killed. We're rooting for her because she's a good person, right? And it shows in the movie that she's a good person. She made a mistake. She's crying. She's, oh, I'm so sorry. I don't want to do this. And it was Harlan who pushes her like, no, you have to do this. Do this for me. I wanted to protect your family. And he cares for her because she cares for him, right? Instead of his whole family doesn't really care for him. His whole family cares about the fortune and kind of neglects. But it's Marta who's always there for him, and we see that right in the beginning and how they shows and how they interact with each other. They're very close, as opposed to the family who when in the introduction we see everyone's kind of selfish and kind of does their own thing and doesn't really care for the father. So it's this change of perspective, and it just shows again this kind of it's a very different form of the genre because we don't follow the main detective, and we already know what's happened in the beginning, and we follow a suspect instead, which kind of turns itself on the head. But then we kind of wrap it up back into the way that the genre is usually done, where the detective explains it. So we go back once we get everything. Marta's story is finished. We think she's captured. She's done. That's the end of her story. And then Benoit Blanc, kind of takes it back at the end, like, oh no, this is what actually happened, and as true to form to what these other Sherlock whodunit kind of does. Ends right with the detective explaining what happened with the main suspect back into the room capturing. It's like, how did you know? Well, this is what happened, and this is we kind of go back true to form and see how everything is pieces together, the donut within a donut within a donut hole. So I think it definitely turns itself on the head and definitely lends itself to so many twists. When the first time I'm watching it, I just like, oh, it doesn't really, nothing really takes you by surprise. Like, oh, that makes sense, right? Like, oh, like when things happen, you piece these things together. That when a twist doesn't happen, it doesn't feel like it's out of place. At least for
Mm-hmm.
me, right? It looks like okay, that makes like, looking back like okay, that makes sense. That detail was said, but you either forget it or don't really realize it until it's brought back up again, right? And it's like oh, that is true, and it just all kind of fits together. As kind of what Benoit Blanc said, there's a donut with a hole. It's not everything makes sense, and we piece each one together until we get the full picture at the end of the movie. But
Yeah.
it is definitely like I think a refreshing turn in this genre, and it plays to our tropes of what we usually watch the Sherlock or Psych
Yeah.
and Monk. That
Mm-hmm.
there's different things and that happen, and it's just a very different kind of story that they're telling.
Right. Benoit Blanc even promotes Marta to Watson.
Yeah,
She's Watson, which allows her to sabotage the evidence to begin
exactly.
with, which I find to be hilarious. Um, the game
Yeah,
is
there was that
afoot.
one. Yeah, the game is afoot, and there's, also that one line where at the end she's like, "I'm not, you're not a very good detective." And he's like, "You're not a very good
You
murderer."
can murder.
It's funny because he couldn't figure it out, right? He was on the wrong, or maybe he was on the right path, but it's just like,
Yeah.
technically she wasn't really the real murderer, right? But he
Yeah.
was just
Yeah.
like, at that moment, it was really kind of the line was really funny because we thought, oh, the great detective couldn't figure out,
Yeah,
and the murderer reveals
he
herself.
had no suspicion. Like I just remember there was a scene near the end when the Marta finds Fran, like basically OD'd on
Oh
morphine.
yeah, yeah,
Um, um, and she's trying to meet up with an anonymous email that she was sent to retrieve the only evidence that would implicate her,
hmm
which is a toxicology report of Harlan Thrombey before he died. Or sorry, during he died, right when he died, after he died. And I just remember Daniel Blanc. He's just sitting in the car with like his earphones in, and it's like it just seems like he's playing like a comedic. It's like very comedic. He's like very oblivious, and he's like, wow, like usually in this sort of like mystery, the main character, main detective, is like competent, but it
yeah,
makes this film sort of like plays him out to be like incompetent, almost like a
right,
comedic character, and it's like
yeah,
oh wow, well all right, clearly this guy's like he's like way like he's just way off in his deduction, right? Because like
yeah,
in our minds it's Marta who's the one who like accidentally murdered Harlan Thrombey, and he's oblivious to it, completely oblivious to it. Not until the ambulance comes in, and then it's revealed. Then Marta kind of like tells him everything, or like yeah, I guess Marta tells him the truth after that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. She does. Like once in their car ride. After that, she's just like, "Let me, reveal everything. I can't do anything because or is after." Yeah, she just reveals everything after after Fran is found. Right? She's like, I can't do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's all you know, it's too much for her, right? She wants to tell the truth. And
Yeah.
she doesn't want it's just overwhelming. So yeah, she just reveals everything.
Yeah. Um, Talking a bit about the end, you guys, the reveal, the climax of the film, the whole reveal.
Yeah,
Um, so I before Ransom came into the scene, I was thinking like, because Marta was about to renounce her will, right, or like renounce the will, and basically be like,
yeah,
all right, you guys get your stuff, you guys take what whatever you guys want, I'm out. And then Blanc comes in. It's like wait no, she will not renounce it. Blah, blah, blah. And Martha's like what's going on? And then takes him in the back, and then Blanc kind of like starts piecing it together, like the donut within the donut within the hole,
yeah,
or the hole within the hole. And at this point, me as like an audience member who's just watching it, I'm like, okay, they're gonna talk about, because at the very beginning I just thought it was like somebody sabotaged or tried to sabotage Marta in the very beginning, because the antidote was conveniently gone, and then like she accidentally, like someone switched the vials, right, or seemingly wanted to switch the vials. And to me, I always thought that was like the weirdest thing. I thought that was like the real mystery. Once it like started becoming like to me that was like, I always had that in the back of my mind. I was like, okay, they haven't really like touched upon that, right?
right. Did you think someone switched the vials though? Like, because I think that the antidote being missing could have been kind of weird.
I
But I thought
mhm.
I didn't even think that vials were switched, right? I thought it was just her, making a mistake, just um, not paying attention when she was
Oh, I
putting it in.
see. I thought
Because
the whole,
I didn't even think that the vials had been switched. I just thought, oh, she was just kind of being careless and just switched it. But then when the whole you know the antidote not being there, it kind of just for me, I just bought it. Like I didn't even think like, oh, the antidote being there was kind of suspicious. Because like, oh, it was a careless mistake, and there's kind of all these series of unfortunate events going along and along and
right.
along. It's like, oh wow, so. But
Yeah,
yeah, I can see why the antidote, being not there is suspicious. But the vial itself, I was like, oh, like did you how did you realize, or what made you think that the vials were switched, or it's just like a feeling that you had, like, oh, someone may have switched the vial. Um,
yeah. It was a feeling. I think it was because like she had done it so many times that I didn't think it was just like a careless mistake. Um, I think like to me it was like I think if it was just a matter of if it was like just a matter of like the Wilds were she just made a mistake and then the antidote wasn't there or
mhm.
sorry was there, then I could believe that it was just a mistake because I just to me I wouldn't it just didn't make sense that like she made the mistake and then the antidote wasn't there as well. Like that's like two things that like would basically cause him to Harlan Thrombey to
I
die,
see.
right? Like those two coupled together made me really suspicious that there was someone who sabotaged and wanted to implicate Marta as like the killer.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, it turns out at the end, Marta was such a good nurse that she was able to determine
Tell.
based on the viscosity, but it looked like she gave the wrong dosage because the labels were switched.
Right. Well,
Um,
also at the beginning, like the go board was flipped, right? So the medicine dropped everything dropped on the ground. She picks it up and she starts administering it too,
yeah.
right? But
So she didn't really read the. Man, she might not have been paying
she
attention.
wasn't. She
Yeah,
only she did it by feel.
she did it by
Um,
feel. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, I wonder. I actually would have wondered. I mean, this it would have. It wouldn't. Out of curiosity, I wonder if she would have been able to tell. Like she would have like filled them and then like looked at the label and then be like, wait a minute. But yeah, just curious. I don't know. Anyway, at the end, so to me, I always thought that was, in the back of my mind, those two things happening
Yeah.
was like, okay, there's somebody here that's who did it, like who did it, and before Ransom came to the scene and you know, sort of is revealed as the big baddie. Oh man, Captain America is the bad guy. Who would have known? What a surprise. I was thinking, I was like, wait, who who is there that like who's like the least suspicious? Because I thought the movie was going to give us like a bit of a like a left field like out of the park sort of
Hmm.
suspect, right?
Yeah.
And I was thinking like, okay, I don't think it's anyone in the family. That's too obvious. I don't think any of them would have like thought this through all the way. Ransom was like the if it was from the family, it would have been Ransom. Like that, he would have been the most likely. And that was only after he, to me, it was only he who was put onto my radar more because he kind of very conveniently revealed Marta's confessed to Marta. Like he just like provided all this information to Marta, even after his like spiel about like you're not gonna get caught. Well, that's not gonna happen. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I get put in the police custody and then just reveal everything. Like to me, I was like, that was really easy. But anyway, out of the family members, Ransom was the most likely. But I was thinking like it might have been outside the family, and like my mind just started wandering, and like one of my suspects, I'm not gonna lie, one of my suspects I thought it might have been like Marta's mom or like her sister.
Oh, really?
And then, okay, so I was like, what if it's like because to me I was like, okay, who would have had access to this medical kit, right?
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, Marta does,
Oh,
and then
okay.
anyone in her
Yeah.
family can do it, right? So I was thinking like, what if the family like
Changed it.
changed it
Yeah.
so that way it would like because they but because they somehow
But they would have
knew
to.
they would have to
Yeah.
know the will.
Right.
And then I was like, I was like, there's no way they know the will. There's no way that like the movie somehow is going to connect them knowing the will, because Marta didn't even know. So I don't know how they would know, right? So to me, after I thought about it more, I was like, okay, it's probably not the family members.
Unless somehow some family members connected with the lawyer, right? Seeing how Harlan changed the will the week before.
Right.
It would have that
would have been a stretch.
That would have been a stretch because no one would have expected. At least nothing was revealed about like, oh, my sister works at a law firm, or my,
right.
These two are friends or whatnot.
Right,
like,
right. There's nothing in the film
yeah.
prior that would have like suggested
right, exactly.
that was going to happen. And then I was thinking, okay, what if it's like one of the kids? What if it's like Meg, or like the boy who's like apparently like this, like the Nazi boy, I don't know whatever his name is, I forget.
The troll.
Like, what if it's like the troll or Meg? Like, what if this whole thing is a big troll? Like, the troll was just like, all right, let me just switch these vials and be like, yeah, whatever, I don't really care, I just want to. But I quickly didn't, like, I thought about it and I was like, oh, it's probably not right, because that would cheapen the movie a lot. It's like, oh, it was just a troll, and I was like, what? That's it? And then to me, I was like, oh, maybe it could have been Meg, in some sense, because like she was closest to Marta, and then it could have used whatever knowledge, but also she didn't know about the will either.
Right, she didn't have any motive.
Yeah.
And she was kind of like the closest, yeah.
So to me, I was like I had my list of suspects, and I was like eliminating them. I was like, oh, it's probably not this person, that person. And then I was like, well, I guess we'll find out. Because the only person I would thought of, like, at that time, the only person I didn't eliminate was Ransom. And I was like, is it really going to be Ransom? Captain America, how can you betray me? Yeah, and then the reveal happened, and it was like, yep. I would have gone away with it too if it weren't for you and your dumb dog. Scooby-Doo style.
Yeah.
Oh, but I think but Marta outsmarted him at the end. She told a lie.
Yeah. She told a lie. Held it in.
Held it in. Exactly.
Puked him. And he's like, she got him to confess, right?
Yep.
To murder.
Yep.
Which was smart, and we able got the confession in front of 3 other people, 2 of them being the actual police officers.
And recorded.
And recorded.
Yep.
And then he tries to I love the shot, right, where he goes for the knife, and he always attacks her, and then she's
yeah, that whole shot, that slow motion shot of like, it's like, oh no, really dramatic effect, she's gonna die. Yeah. and then like you see both of them just like, there's like a freeze shot just like of him on top of her, just like with a knife like seemingly in, and it's like, oh, she dead? And then they like both look down at the knife, and he pulls up the knife, and it's like he pulls up and then pushes down, pulls up, and you realize that's a retractable knife.
Yeah, and then it's a stage knife, right?
It's a stage knife, exactly. And then
it goes back to the beginning of the movie where Harlan would say, I can't tell the difference. We can't tell the difference between a real knife and a fake one, right? And he
and he stabs it. Yeah.
Stabs the table, but here, stabs Marta. It's just a fake knife. He couldn't tell the difference.
Couldn't tell the difference, exactly. Yeah, just like the audience couldn't tell the difference between the real culprit and the fake culprit. Anyway, I just love how he, like, Chris Evans, he pulls out the knife. He looks at it, and he realizes that's a retractable knife, and he's like, oh shit, and he gets apprehended. I just thought it was the most hilarious thing ever. I really like. I mean, in terms of like just acting in general, I just really liked Chris Evans in this film. It was like breath of fresh air for him to play the villain, and he just like he did it really well. It was a very comedic. He was like that mysterious comedic character. Kind of comes in. His dad is like son, and he retorts father in like the same like tone, and it's just very humorous interactions. Whenever he was on screen, it was very like enjoyable to see him play his character. And it looked like, I heard and I read somewhere that he really enjoyed this role. Like, it was like really refreshing for him because, he'd been playing Captain America for like the past decade almost. So like,
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I just thought this movie just flipped itself over like so many times and like deconstructed the mystery genre, even almost at times parodied it, the mystery
Pretty
genre,
much.
um,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, this mysterious figure comes in, you think it's him, and then it's like, oh wait, it's not him, and then it goes back to him. It is actually him.
Right.
So
It plays on the tropes and what we know, or what we think we know, and that because it does that, it gets us to you know, kind of lets our guard down
yeah,
and believe
mm-hmm.
other things, and then
Yep.
it has all these twists that kind of goes back to it. And everyone's acting also played a good part, and as you said, like Chris Evans' acting is great, and also Marta, her acting I think was
Yes,
pretty
her
good.
acting was very good. Her acting was very good.
She was innocent. She's she
She
plays
played the
she's
innocent
like,
role.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't I'm out of my element here, but she's trying to now fight for her own survival,
Yep.
and she has all these people against her, and all these situations. Um, but yeah, like this movie does a great job, just turning everything on its head, and not only that, but I think cinematically, there was just some good shots as well, right? How this movie was being portrayed again. The end scene where Marta's about to get stabbed, I thought that was very prominent. Right at the beginning too. When we see, or wasn't no, not at the beginning. It was actually at the end when we the shot the shot where going through the knives, the plate and going to Benoit
Yes.
Blanc. I thought that
Yep.
was
Yep.
pretty nice,
The
right?
revelation.
Uh, yeah,
The revelation
exactly.
scene.
The
Yep.
whole
Yep.
revelation was great. And there's also like all these little things, details in the movie that kind of help build this world, as well as build up all these suspects and characters and characterizations and relationships as well. One thing that I kind of wanted to note is just like how, and I think a lot of people are also realize this, is how the family didn't really care for Marta, even though they said they did, right?
Yep. They
Because
turned on her right when. Yep.
yeah, they turn on her, but also at the very beginnings and middle of the movie, they kind of just say, oh, they don't really know where she's from. They say all these other like Hispanic, Latino countries.
That's
They don't
true.
really nail it down.
That's
Like,
true.
oh, she's
Yeah.
from
Yes. Yes.
Ecuador. Oh, she's from Uruguay. Oh no, she's from Brazil. It's like, oh, like no one really knows where she's from. Like
She's from. She's. Is she actually from Ecuador? Is that?
they don't say. They don't reveal it.
They don't reveal it. Oh,
Right?
okay.
Yeah. So but we can know that nobody in this family know. Like all we know is that she's an undocumented immigrant, right? Or her mother.
Her mother
is
is.
undocumented.
Yeah.
But no one knows where they came from, right? We just know that she's not from she's just from a different Hispanic Latino country, and nobody in the family kind of knows where, even though everyone in the family says, oh yeah, she's like family to us. They all say different things, right, about like where she's from, and they also kind of both sides of the family also say she wasn't invited to the funeral because I was outvoted, but everyone says that I was outvoted. So it kind of goes like, okay, so no one really wanted her there, right? So it's just like there's just this because there's this dichotomy where the family acts like she's family, or she says, oh yeah, she was close to us, but in the real actions was they really didn't care for her, and they really didn't accept her as part of the family, and I think there's a whole dichotomy of that as well. And then also at the very end of the movie, the whole where she kicks them out, or they're outside the house, right? She's there and she's drinking her mug, and the cup says my house. It's just pretty funny at the end how it all kind of just showed how she kind of retained control, and just all these kind of little details that this movie had, which I think kind of built the enjoyment of it all, right? It's just these little symbolisms that was there, that wasn't overt, and just you can drink it in, especially you can enjoy it a second time around.
Right. Right. For sure. Yeah. So like, as someone who watched it for the second time, did you, do you feel like you enjoyed it more or got to appreciate it more than the first time?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it was definitely a different viewing, but I know what happened. Right? I think the first time was just very enjoyable,
Yeah.
because there's so many twists, right? There's so many plot twists that you never really expected. Every time a plot twist happened, it was just so fun for me, just because I was like, oh, that makes sense, right? Like it wasn't kind of like random, and everything made sense the way that it was supposed to go, and it was just so fun because it kind of flipped everything all that what I knew, and I just enjoyed that because it's like, oh,
right, exactly.
that made sense. Like, I just love these plot twists that the film does, because you kind of you think one way and just nope, it's the other way, but it's just it made sense that why it went the other way.
Yeah.
The second time around, the twist wasn't there, so I don't think it was as I wasn't having as much fun and enjoyment, but at the same time, it was good now to watch it just because you get to see all these little details that I haven't caught before, and trying to piece together like, oh, like how come or why come did this happen, and yeah, did it make sense? Did they reveal it? It's like, yeah, they did. They talked about it.
Yeah.
They kind of revealed it, and
Mm-hmm.
they show it. And now you have hindsight. You can say, ha, this is what happens. They connecting the dots now,
Yep. Yep.
and you go in blind. You don't go in blind anymore, right? But I think seeing this movie for the first time is definitely what they experienced, to have it instead of having it spoiled and seeing the second time. And, it's always it's a very fun movie to see. I think that's what these mystery genres, right? It's just the first time around that gets you, right. The second time is just like you get to realize all the clues, right, and you get to piece it together yourself to see, did they drop anything, did they miss anything, and you kind of see how airtight this whole story is, because with a lot of these plot twists, right, they can mess it up, right. They can maybe there's something that doesn't line up in the timeline, or you try to piece it together, but like after you can see a second time, say, okay, yes, this makes sense, this is why it goes like this, and you follow the plot along, and I think it's still very enjoyable, just because again, and not just because of the plot twist this time, but just because you get to appreciate the acting right now, and you get to appreciate the more the cinematography, just the way that the movie was presented, and I enjoyed that as well, and I thought it was
Mm-hmm.
still a very good movie, the way that it was all directed and how it was
Yeah.
visually displayed to be as a medium. So I think the first time I enjoyed it for its story, right? The second time I got to enjoy it just because it's a movie, the cinematic portions of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think you pointed out a lot of details that I didn't pick up on as a first time viewer. For instance, the one where he flips the coin, Long flips the coin, and the perspective changes from him to Marta.
Yeah,
I didn't catch that, but that's yeah, that's a really important detail. Symbolic, very
right,
symbolic. Um, the and then the reference to the knife on Holland Thrombey at the beginning sort of tells Marta like, oh, you can't, can you tell between a real knife and a stage knife? Like no one can tell. And then that sort of trope comes up at the very end when Ransom attempts to murder Marta with a knife, but he doesn't realize it's a stage knife.
yeah,
Something that kind of like connects it, like from the very beginning,
right.
and is referencing the title of the movie, Knives Out, right? So, um, yeah, those are some really nice details that like I didn't pick up as a first time viewer, but I'm glad that like as a second time viewer you did, because yeah, it sort of makes the movie a lot more like in a way better in the sense of like how it was executed.
Yeah, if it makes it fuller, right? Because you
Yeah.
get to know all the details now. Because before you're just wondering what happened, right, and
Mm-hmm.
how it was done.
Mm-hmm.
But now you have context, so now you try to piece it together. Like, did they do it well,
Yeah.
right? Did it make sense? And what and you get to watch it a second time. You get to see, yes, it all makes sense. Like they brought it up. They said this, and they made this is why in the end. But it makes sense to me because it all kind of had these different things that we saw in the movie previously add up. It all adds up at the end. Like, okay, all the donut holes are all filled, because we ought to see each kind of these little details, that kind of came along.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was definitely very interesting how they fit those in without also being very overt about it too. Um, and then another thing, a small detail, I don't know if you noticed as well, was the baseball, right?
Oh
Where
yes,
right,
yes.
how that kind of went around, right? So now
Yeah.
following like that doesn't really have a big plot point, but that baseball kind of was just the plot point for the affair, right? Just going
Yeah.
around in circles and
Subplot.
then hiding. This the kind of symbolism I think is you can't really hide something like that, right? So it goes from the office, Benoit Blanc throws into the window, gets to the dogs, and then it goes all the way back to the office. But that's where Linda's character, finds the
Finds it,
letter.
and she
Is able
realized
to,
that yeah.
reveal it. She kind of knows, the whole jig is up, and yeah, I thought that was just a small side plot that
Mm-hmm.
kind of seeing it a second time around, you followed where the baseball kind of went.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I so it was very funny when the letter when what's I forget his name, not the Linda's husband,
Richard.
Richard. Yes, when Richard tried to um, get the letter before Linda could see it, the letter that Thrombey Harlan like wrote was going to reveal to her that Richard was having an affair.
Yeah.
When he opens up the letter, and it's like nothing. There's nothing on it. I was like, put a flame underneath. Like, is it invisible? And he's like, and then he just like laughs, smirks it off, and just like puts it down. And I'm like, you're not even gonna take it. Just put it down.
It's because he thought the father was bluffing, right? And just like, oh, it's nothing.
Yeah,
There's nothing in the contents. But we know.
Yeah, it's understandable. Yeah. Like, he thought it was just bluff, but I was just like, I don't know. I guess I've seen enough Sherlock Holmes or whatever. Where there's like, or done enough of those what's it called, escape rooms, where it's like, you can reveal the contents of something if you put a little black light on it or like a flame underneath it. Anyway, I'm actually really glad. I thought that was a really nice at the very end when Linda puts the ball back, like what comes around goes around sort of thing.
Yeah.
Trope.
Yeah.
Puts the ball back, gets the letter, and then she's like, Dad. Okay.
One of the games that they played.
Right? Yeah, so. Exactly. And I was like, oh, thank you. I'm so glad that this like came back around, because the guy's gonna go scot-free.
Right.
At the end. But it's a thematic significance of this film.
Justice is served.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I do want to discuss another point. Probably one of my closing points to begin with, but the storytelling of this movie was, I think, very well done. I think the progression of like Marta revealing, like basically Marta kind of like in the first half of the film, it's sort of revealed that Marta accidentally killed Thrombey, and it goes back and you see those events unfold.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm wondering whether or not you think the film, like, what if the film had not done that approach? Because like it could have done a different approach in the sense that like that wasn't revealed. Like, they didn't have to necessarily reveal all of that to the audience. And then it would have been like more of a who's trying to figure out, like, you don't know what exactly happened and you're trying to piece it together. And then you see Marta like looking seemingly sabotaging all of these different things going on. And you as the audience are gonna be like, wait a minute, Batty, there's something weird about her. And I was wondering, if you think that could have been perhaps, whether or not like that sort of technique, that sort of, instead of revealing everything that Marta did with Thrombey before, if it would have been better perhaps had it not been revealed and you as the audience is trying to figure it out. And it's sort of like, still the ending is still similar, like it still ended up being Ransom, but like you're kind of like put on this, you're almost like the detective. You're in the perspective of the detective almost.
So we would be following Benoit Blanc the whole time then, you'd say, instead of we're just going through his perspective and how.
Yeah, but also you get to see like you also get to see like Marta sabotaging
the
those
shenanigans
behind it, because you as the audience is trying to figure out like who the culprit is, and then you're like now it's the movie suggesting that it's Marta, even though like no one suspects it's Marta.
Right.
So I was wondering if, like, whether or not you think that would have been like a better twist, because like essentially when the movie unfolds, like when they tell you that like all the events that happened between Harlan and Marta in the very beginning, then that sort of like collapses the whole mystery aspect, right? Like it seems like it's like told the mystery is solved, like there's no mystery at all. There's not really a mystery anymore. But if they had not told those events, then it's still a mystery.
Right.
But then it becomes like a mystery with a twist at the end. Whereas the film, as you mentioned before, it was like a mystery in the beginning, and then it turned more into like a, not like, almost like a thriller, kind of like weaving into more of like a thriller because of the whole like the note and the car chase and like and then it collapses back onto a mystery because of the whole revelation and Ransom being revealed as the culprit, the main baddie. So I'm wondering if you think that like if it would have been better to stay true to the whole genre if it had just kept on as a mystery in the very
I don't know if it would be better. I mean, I think it's still probably still be a good story to tell, right? If they followed along with the mystery genre, but I don't think it would have stood out as much, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because of the way that this movie, took all these plot twists and kind of, switched off, seemingly switched its genres. I think it made that a lot more memorable, right? But I
Mm-hmm.
think if they even if they did like because this mystery movies and the mystery genre itself is always I think always intriguing and interesting, right? Because you're trying to follow along what happened, as long as all the characters make sense, portray them well, and the plot twist makes sense, and all the evidence is there and it's shown to us.
Yeah.
I think it would have still been pretty good, right? Even
Yeah.
if the stories was told by with Benoit Blanc's perspective, I thought it would have been interesting, but I don't think it would have been very remarkable, right? It would
Right.
have just been a regular whodunit movie, and yeah, I think it would have been enjoyable because this whole scene in this case we're trying to piece together along, we're just trying to figure it out. I think it'd still be a good story, but I just don't think it would have been as good, or it wouldn't have just been very memorable, right? Like I think because all these plot twists and all these changes, and it's told in Marta's perspective, and we seemingly think that the mystery's over. I think it elevates the story even more than it would have if it's just a regular whodunit mystery movie, right? I think
Yeah.
it's just it kind of made it even better than what it could have been. I think I think it was the story and the movie would have still been good, following Blanc's perspective. It's just now that Rian Johnson did what he did with the movie, it just made it so much more enjoyable, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Um,
I've I haven't really seen any of I've only seen I think two of his movies, like Star Wars 8 and this one, and there seems to be like a almost like a reoccurring theme. Well, I've only seen two, like I said, but like out of the ones I've seen, those two, it just seems to be like a recurring theme of like he likes to change up, like change up the genre, not genre, but like almost like make it very different in a sense. Like put a little
yeah,
like a lot of twists into it because I know Star Wars 8 was heavily. I don't know if you've seen it.
yeah, I did.
Oh, you did. Okay, it was heavily criticized because it was too different. Like it was
Very
like
different form
very different
from
form
what
from
Star
like
Wars
Star Wars
usually.
itself. Whereas
Yeah,
7 was criticized because it was too similar.
yeah,
And so like Rian Johnson came in and made it different, and then the people just audience hated it. Critics apparently liked it, but the audience hated it. Um, and so like this movie is also very different. It's like taking that stereotypical mystery genre trope, twisting it on itself, and then almost like deconstructing it and then making it a parody
hmm
of it. So yeah, it just I wonder if that's his thing, just to be
just
different, make things
yeah.
different. Yeah, in some sense. Yeah, I think going back to the
Supposed
whether
to
or
be
not. Oh, sorry.
no, I was gonna say there's supposed to be a sequel to this movie, right?
Yes, there was supposed to be a sequel to this
So
movie.
I just wonder how they're going to be able to do that because now we all kind of know, right? Like, oh, there might be a twist or something that's different. So
It's
how do they
true.
pull off a sequel and
It's
again,
gonna be called Guns
Ian
Out.
Johnson? How do they flip it on its head, and how do they make it subvert our expectations again? Because we kind of expect now we expect something might be different or changing, not in line with the whole mystery genre, but
Hmm.
yeah, that's a different movie. So
Right. Yeah. Okay, going back to whether or not, I think it would have been better if it would still kept it as a mystery. Yeah, like basically it wasn't revealed that Marta accidentally killed Harlan Thrombey in the beginning. I think, yeah, the movie would have been different for sure. It would have like it would have kept it would have kept me on my toes more. Um, but I think what the movie did really well was like I almost thought of it like I guess I interpreted it as like more of like it was parodying itself at that point. It was like,
mm,
oh yeah, the audience knows, but like no one else knows. Not even the main detective guy, not even LeBlanc
yeah.
or Blanc knows what's going on. So it was a yeah. I at first I was thinking about it. I was like, oh, it might have been better if it kept if it was kept the sort of like mystery theme throughout the entire film. But I think I agree with you in the sense that like it wouldn't have been as memorable. It would have just been like, oh, a mystery with a twist.
Right.
Whereas this one was like, it's like so it was like really unique that like it just the mystery was almost like it was solved at the beginning.
Right.
Or at least not solved, but like we know that there's like not really a
We kind
mystery.
of know what happens. They kind
Yeah,
of
we know what
reveal, right, in
happens.
the
We
beginning.
reveal exactly what happens. Um, but yeah, I just wanted your opinion on it because like that was something that I thought about when I watched it. Um, and yeah, and something else also that I, as an audience, first time viewer, because I was just thinking about all the different clues that were revealed in the beginning
Hmm.
when the detective was going through the events of the night, based on the stories of all the people involved. For instance, like the Linda waking up to the stair creaking twice or three times,
Yeah.
and the dogs barking when that woke up Meg.
Yeah.
We never really knew why the dogs barked, because we clearly know that like they don't bark for Marta, right?
Right.
And Marta went back and forth, and they weren't barking. So I like had thought about that in my mind. I was like, wait a minute, those dogs barked, but they weren't. Like, no one knows why they barked. And then
It
and
didn't.
then they revealed it, and it was because Captain America, or sorry, Chris Evans, he comes back in late at night, and he gets he gets pounced by the dogs, and they start barking, and that wakes up Meg, and so he has to go back. Okay.
Scared away. And
Scared
has to
away, exactly.
and that's why he's not at the funeral, right? He's not at the funeral because he was back at the house.
He was back at the house, exactly. I'm so glad that they like, because there were just these small things, small details that like I like no, because I was still trying to figure it out. Like I was actively figuring out like trying to figure out what's going on. But and I just remember that there are these like small details that they had that they that they revealed, or they presented, and I was like, are they going to come back to this at some point? And no, sure enough they did. And I'm like really glad about that, because that was always a question in my mind. Like, oh, huh. Like who took the antidote? Who switched the labels? Why are those dogs barking? There's like, the hole within the hole. There's some weird
Yeah, there's all
stuff
these
going
little
on.
pieces that didn't make sense, right? But
Yeah.
they kind of fill it in at the end,
Yeah.
and you kind of you kind of make sense of it yourself. Like, oh, this is why it happened. This is what caused it, and
Right.
you just be able to pinpoint. That's why, with all these, it was a plot twist that it was Ransom, but you kind of figure it out. Yes, that makes sense because of all the things, all the events that happened previously in the movie. They all come rushing back, and you said, okay, this all adds up now, and that's what makes the plot twist kind of enjoyable. It's just because of all these kind of different
Right.
things, the details that add up, and on a second viewing, or you're just you reviewing, just like, yes, that makes sense. It's not kind of out of left field, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which can be frustrating because if it's out of left field, it's like, well, we try to figure it out, and it comes out of nowhere. It feels unrewarded or undeserved, right? It feels undeserved. But here, everything feels deserved because they kind of planted it already previously.
Right. Yep.
But
Yeah.
this kind of, I think, kind of also compares to the other whodunit that we've seen, Flypaper, right?
Oh yes.
Very different.
Yes.
Very different.
That was that movie was also like sort of like it turned into a mystery. Like it was one of those genres that turned.
Whodunit.
Yeah, it turned from one genre. Like it was like in the beginning you weren't sure what kind of genre it was, and then it became a mystery at the very end. I think JPEG Slayer. Yeah, this one was also like, I think first of all, Knives Out had a better production. Like the quality was better, like in terms of like the production and everything, and the acting. I think the acting was also better in general. But like it was clear. I think Knives Out had a better like exposition. It had a better introduction because it sort of told you as the audience that this is going to be a mystery film.
Right.
And like it's still like the mystery elements are still there throughout the entire film. It was just more so like, oh wait, there's a little bit of a gap in between. Like the mystery is, in our perspective as the audience, we already know what happened, but there are still some important small details which I think are like on a first viewing maybe you don't catch, but on a second viewing you're like, oh, okay, yes, there are these small details that are like they're not really explained. Um, they're like the hole within the plot, like almost like plot holes. And then as the movie unfolds, it goes back to it's like a full circle ending. It goes back to where it originally was meant to be, and it finishes it off. And I don't know. I just think the difference between that and Flypaper is that Flypaper and the exposition of Flypaper was very like I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. Not to say so like I think in terms of execution, Knives Out was better. I did enjoy it more.
It was a lot better, but yeah, and I feel like with Flypaper though, it's just sometimes it just feels kind of a bit too wacky, right? I feel like things were.
I mean, okay, Flypaper was for sure more of a comedy.
And didn't make sense.
It was more of a comedy.
Yeah, more of a comedy, but still, it just things just did not add up for me, and just things were did not make sense of why things were going. Nothing really made. Nothing why the interactions that happened or the actions that happened never really made sense to me of why each character did what they were doing, and it just seemed everything seemed absurd. But here, I think we get all the motives, we get all the characters, everyone acted in a believable way, like why they were doing things, and we were kept in suspense, and we kind of were invested in this story of like Marta and if she'll make it, and then finding out at the end who the actual killer was. So I just right, it's just two different productions, but one who done it just I enjoyed a lot more than the other. A lot more.
Yeah. I feel like actually, come to think about it, I actually think that like Flypaper could have done like they're actually like pretty similar. They're more similar than like Flypaper and Knives Out. They're actually like
in the way that they try to twist it.
Yeah, in the way they're trying to twist the mystery. Yeah. They're more similar.
But with Flypaper, it starts off as you think it's an action where it turns into a whodunit, right? And then it kind of stays that way at the end. But with Knives Out, it starts off as a mystery. I think kind of dwells into becoming a kind of like a thriller kind of, and then goes back into the mystery genre where it's tied up neatly. But yeah, I can see they try to with Flypaper they try to take a different turn and twist, but different approach, and how it's similar, but it just I don't think it was just as well. Characters, plays.
I bet in the sequel of Knives Out, if they use guns and they call it Guns Out, I bet I'm thinking maybe they could take something from Flypaper and make it better. because Flypaper does like, I mean, there's a lot of guns, right? There's more guns used and whatever, but like it would be hilarious if they made the setting of the sequel to be more action-y. Like if it was like they gave it a more of an action flair to it, and they put it in like a bank heist setting. I would be freaking out. I would laugh so hard. I would be like, man, I watched the movie before it was cool. That would be interesting. Yeah. That would be so interesting. But yeah, overall, like, how would you rate this film? And I guess, how would you rate this film? What did you like about it? What did you did not like about it? Any like comments about impression?
Yeah, I mean, I think we already kind of know we like this movie a lot, enjoyed it. There's a lot of things that the plot twist definitely I think added up to the enjoyment the first time around, and then seeing all these details and cinematography and how great that was the second time around. Just these little details that kind of want to point out was just how like the portrait of Harlan Thrombey kind of changed at the end, right? So in the beginning we kind of see him as stern. Each portrait of him was like stern and serious, but at the end the portrait that Marta's looking up is he's smiling now.
Oh really?
So they kind of change all these little,
I didn't notice that.
So they change all these like small details in the movie, and it's just like very subtle. It's kind of fantastical, but it's very very small and whatnot. How they change these different elements that you catch. Now that you know the plot twist, right? You can see all these other little details. That's why I was picking up like the music and cinematography, because now the story I'm not disengaged from the story because I already know what happened. Now I can enjoy the other parts of the movie. So this movie definitely lends itself to having it watched a second time, I would say. So I definitely really like that, and just the way that this movie was executed very very well, and very different from what I'm used to. What I dislike, I think it's very little. There's some things maybe kind of did not make sense, but or yeah, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But I feel like over
Examples.
yeah, but I feel like overall it wouldn't really hurt me and my overall enjoyment. Like I think the first time was with the um, when Marta was trying to erase the videotape. It was like a small refrigerator magnet, and I was like, is that really enough? I mean, I don't know. Maybe it is, but I like, was that enough to erase or scramble the movie? It just
Mm.
you know kind of yeah,
Took
that
took
just
took
sort of
took you out of the
kind
experience.
of, but at the
Yeah.
same time, I was okay with it, and it was just um, yeah, it was okay. It didn't really because like okay, that's just how she scrambles it. It's just kind of like part of the whole genre itself. So it didn't really pull me too much away. But when I first saw that, I was just like, that's
Demagnetization.
crazy. Yeah. So I don't know if that's true. Maybe it is true, and I'm just saying, hey, how's that believable? But yeah, that's just one thing. And then the other thing was, I think one of the detectives, right? He was just saying, there's just one line where he was like, oh, all this weak sauce. I just didn't like that line. Just that line just didn't work for that piece of writing. But that's just like a small minor thing as well. Um, and how it went along. But other than that, I really enjoyed the movie, the writing itself. I thought it was perfectly executed. So. Um, there's very little fault I would have with this movie, so I think I might actually have to give it a 10. I really liked the movie.
Ooh,
Really enjoyed it. I
you
don't
wouldn't
think there
change
was
anything
anything I
at
would
all.
nothing I would say that really needed vast improvements to change it, because I thought the way that the story form was told, Rian Johnson did it in his way, and he did it a way that I thought was pretty well. The plot twists work, right? The acting was pretty much on point. Benoit Blanc, even though he had that southern accent, CSI KFC, was pretty funny, and it kind of but I thought it just kind of adds to this character, like this kind of character who's not part from this family, and he's just um, he's just different, right? And you kind of see he's trying to portray a character who's kind of like exceptional, right? Like Sherlock or Monk, or it's like they have these like qualities or quirks, right? And his quirk was, while he's like Sherlock reduction, right? Is that he has this really thick Southern accent,
Hmm.
and it's just pretty funny and whatnot. So I don't think there's anything I could possibly change that would have made this movie better. I thought this movie is pretty good already. That the way that it's presented itself, and nothing I would say that I would change that would otherwise maybe vastly change the way that this movie would have been made, and may have ruined it. And I just thought that the director's vision definitely went through well, and I, as the audience member, received it and received it in a positive manner. So I
Yeah.
would say I think this movie, at least for me, um, a 10. So pretty dang near perfect in terms of how it was executed. Especially watching the second time around, you get to appreciate a lot of things that the director did
Hmm.
to display this movie visually instead of just
Hmm.
the story wise. So
Yeah, yeah. Those are some good comments. Some small things I guess I haven't mentioned that I also wanted to speak out on just because I like them a lot is like I think near the beginning of the film they have a dramatic shot on the blood stain on Marta's shoe,
oh yeah,
and that's never really. I was like, oh, I thought the entire film I was kind of waiting for that sort of for it to come back to that because I knew it was going to be some sort of device in the future, and it was not until the very end after the mystery is solved when she's like, "How did you know that I wasn't involved with the murder?" And then LeBlanc is it Blanc or LeBlanc? I always forget.
Blanc,
Blanc,
Benoit Blanc.
Benoit Blanc. He's like, "Your shoe." There's a blood stain on your shoe, and I was like, "Oh my, look at this guy." We think he's so incompetent, but he's like
Yeah,
pretty competent. I mean, he's in the beginning he's presented as very like competent. Like he seems like
Yeah.
he's like in the back pressing the piano key. He's like, oh, this guy like he's figuring out his stuff, and then like, and then, yeah, in the middle of the film is kind of like, oh, he seems to be pretty like, almost like a comedic character in some sense. There's some parts where he's like comedic. For instance, the part where he has his headphones in, and then like he's like
Yeah.
oblivious to like what's going on around him. Doesn't even know.
Right.
Doesn't even
He's missing
suspect
things.
Marta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he invited her along to do the investigation.
Yeah,
She was like,
which allowed her to sabotage all these clues. Makes their job a lot harder now. And then also the scenes wherever they sat down and all the knives are pointing inward to the person sitting in the middle. I really like those shots just because it reminded me of like Game of Thrones, like the Iron Throne. I don't know. Whoever is like in that position is like a position of like prominence.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, they definitely emphasized it, right? Like, okay, this is the
Yeah.
character that we. Yeah.
Yep. And in the end, I believe it was it Marta who sat down at the end, or was it in that seat? I actually don't remember. Maybe at some point she did. I don't know if it was at the end.
Yeah, I don't recall. I think she was just standing.
Yeah, she only just been standing. Oh, and also at the very end when she's on the roof, she's on the porch. She's like staring down on the rest of the family,
Yeah.
and she's holding the mug of like my house, like my rules or
Yeah.
something.
It's just in my house, right? Because she owns it now.
She owns it.
Her hands
Exactly.
covering it. Yep.
Yep.
It's her house.
Yep.
She-
And it's never really revealed what she does with the property, but it's implied that she's gonna keep it for herself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. In terms of a rating,
Anything you would improve?
yeah.
Change.
So in the very beginning, the thing I didn't like about it, I really didn't like the fact that like Martha couldn't tell a lie in the way it's so obvious she couldn't tell a lie based on whether or not she pukes. It's like a condition. I just thought that was so cheesy, but like in some sense I can understand like it's almost like a parody.
But it's also a gimmick, right? And they also use it to play to our expectations, right? Because we
Yep.
think she can't tell a lie, and because she only knows what's one form of truth, we think, okay, we know what's happening.
Yeah.
But then we realize, oh, there's more to the truth that we don't even, that we don't see because it's all ransom, right? Who kind of switched it and whatnot.
Right,
So they
exactly.
they use that ability. Yes, it's kind of gimmicky, but we as the audience, we think, oh, because of that, we know everything, right? Because this is kind of confirms all the details.
Yeah.
But it's also used against us because we think we don't know the whole story. But
Right,
yeah, I think
right.
you're right. It's gimmicky, but I think it also plays to our own expectations, and how they do that.
Yeah, and I also actually really like how Ransom and when they're in the diner, Ransom uses that to his advantage.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, that was so smart. That was so smart. I was like, oh my god, they're taking advantage of this gimmick so hard. Like, they're like it's as if the characters know that like, man, this gimmick is like very convenient. Yeah, that was a really intelligent. I love how the characters in the movie kind of like use it to their advantage whenever, because yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I guess in the beginning I was turned off. I was like, gosh, just how convenient of a gimmick in a mystery film to know that to trust this person because they can't tell a lie, or they basically know when they're telling a lie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I would have. I mean, now that I think about it more, and now that we discussed it more, I think it being there does add a little bit more of a dynamic, like a better, like a. I like how it was used. Throughout the film, I do enjoy how it was used throughout the film. Yeah. That one. So initially, that kind of like turned me off a bit, but like, also I don't really know how I feel about the whole like action sequence, like that drive, for instance, like that car chase, because I wasn't really expecting it to be more of like an action thriller. I'm trying to wonder. I'm trying to think if like it would have been better for me if they just didn't have that car chase. Like for instance, instead of having that car chase where LeBlanc is chasing after like Marta and Ransom, they would have gone. they would have. Hmm. Okay, I'm envisioning what's trying to play it out. So if there was no car chase, if Blanc hadn't followed them at all, then Marta would have gone to the address with Ransom, right?
Right.
And Ransom knew what was going to happen because Ransom set that up.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if Ransom would have followed her in, right?
Well, the idea was that he would call anonymously, right? Because that's what he said they would do, right? Or at least that's what Benoit Blanc said that Ransom would have done. Right? If once Marta went into that shop, he would have given an anonymous tip to the police to catch her.
Oh, wait, he said that?
Yeah, Blanc said that, revealed it at the end. Like, oh, he would have called an anonymous tip, and you would have been seen at the time of the crime there.
Oh, I see. Okay. So then it wouldn't have been able to. So Marta wouldn't have been able to tell the Blanc first about all of the
Right.
confet.
Right.
Okay, that would have changed the whole story. Yeah. I can't. Yeah, because if she's in police custody, then Blanc can't protect her because he's like a private investigator.
Right.
Oof. Okay. Dang, I don't know how to change that though. Because I didn't like that. I didn't really like that car check. I mean, it was kind of funny because she was like, there's like, she's flooring it as fast as she can, but the car is clearly not able to like go fast
It
enough.
definitely comedic elements. Yeah.
There's a comedic element. It was funny.
Of it. And then the detective's like, that was the stupidest car chase that I've ever.
Exactly. So,
it's like,
I just. Okay. With that knowledge, I have to put more thought into it. Because it just seemed that car chase just seems so out of like. It just seems so different from the rest of the movie. Like the movie itself is very, I wouldn't say slow paced, but it's very like deliberate.
Yeah.
And whereas this car chase is kind of just like what's going on? Like what is going on?
Because it kind of cements, right? Like our idea. Like, okay, Marta is guilty. She thinks, oh, she is no longer. We know that she's. At the time we think she's guilty, right? She receives the email.
Yep.
She sees LeBlanc see her, and she's like, oh, now I have to get that letter.
Yes.
So now she has to go across town, drive it, and all the police now are chasing her, trying to flag her down. So she can get across town to that place.
But that car chase was meant to sort of get Ransom out of the picture, so that way she would go
to so she would be able to drive LeBlanc, right? Be able to save Fran herself without having So it's supposed to get Ransom out of the picture, right? Because we know, or LeBlanc, or not LeBlanc, LeBlanc knows that something is wrong with Ransom because Blanc already talked with the dowager, like the matriarch of the family, right? The mother of Harlan.
Yeah.
Right? So he knows, right? So but Marta doesn't know.
Yeah, Marta doesn't know.
So they drive away. The whole car chase, right? This was meant to take give Harlan, not Harlan, give Ransom out of the picture to show kind of like he's escaping police custody. Put Blanc and Marta together, so this way Marta is able to get save or attempt to save Fran alone, as well as I think just getting Marta to that location, blackmail location, while having all the characters in there at the same time that we need to place them.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a way that like Blanc would have been able to like intercept them somehow. Because the only way that I would have thought like to improve the scene is if without having that car, because it was the car chase scene that I just didn't really like that much. I felt it was out of place, even though it was comedic. I didn't like it was funny. I just felt like it was out of place considering the rest of the film. Like if we got rid of that car chase scene, because then somehow LeBlanc would have to know that they were going to go to that address and intercept Ransom and Marta or what before Ransom tips the police. Yeah. I mean, maybe it could have been done without a car chase. Like there could have been some element that.
Well, I think it kind of goes to the point where she's guilty, right? So now she's running away, right? And then with car chase like robbery and whatnot. So it kind of again cements the guild, or just trying to make
Yeah,
some change the
but like
pace
it
of the
could have
movie.
like I feel like it would have. I mean, for us, it didn't really matter. As an audience, it doesn't really matter because we already know that she's like. I guess okay, from LeBlanc's perspective, maybe you think that like she's guilty,
Right.
right? But like also at the same time, like if LeBlanc somehow was able to intercept without the whole car chase, and Marta still would have like I said, Marta was alone, like and Ransom wasn't in the picture. Like Marta still would have revealed to LeBlanc, or sorry, not Blanc, LeBlanc, but like would have revealed to Blanc, like confessed to him because she felt like guilty about all like about Fran almost or basically dying or like close to death.
Hmm.
So like I feel like those turn of events would have still like the events would have unfolded the same even without that car chase. If somehow Blanc was able to intercept, but I just don't know how he would have been able to without inner knowledge because he wouldn't have known about the address because
Right.
it was
Only known
Ransom.
to Marta, and right, it was
Ransom
Ransom
was the
who
one who
told
sent it.
Marta.
So like unless somehow like Blanc knew that was Ransom was up to it, and he like
But how? That would have been different conjecture, right? Like that would have been out of left field, right? In terms
yeah
of
it would have
how,
been more out of left field.
and I think we also the car chase also kind of shows Marta kind of almost digging her own grave, right? How desperate she is, right? Because she's like, I need to get that report, second report, and burn it. I need
Mm-hmm.
to have that gone, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's why she's desperate to get across town,
Yeah, yeah,
even with all the law enforcement chasing. Because when she thinks when she gets that paper, she's scot free, right?
yeah,
She's able to be,
yep,
you know, keep the money, or not have anyone, yeah, she would just keep the money, without anyone knowing about the whole murder of Harlan, right?
yeah, yeah,
Um, but then it's revealed that Fran was hurt. If Marta was there, Ransom would call the police. Police would gone and capture her and arrest her, and
yeah,
she wouldn't have able to get the money because
yeah.
they think, oh, she murdered Fran and
Yeah,
maybe murdered.
I mean I understand the car chase is there. It's to connect. It's basically the device to allow LeBlanc to get Ransom out of the picture before Marta went in to see Fran. I also actually another thing I liked how they named Ransom Hugh because it sounds like you.
Oh yeah,
I think that was done on purpose for sure.
it
Um,
definitely was. Yeah.
that was a very nice touch. Oh man, I just yeah I can't think of a like, hmm, dang it. Yeah, no, I can't think of a way to make it better. But that is something that's something that I do find that I didn't like in the film. No, it's not a huge. It's not like a big take. I would give it my like this film to me would be like 9, 10 range. That would be it. But like I guess I'll just give it like yeah. I would give it a maybe 9.5. Yeah, I'll give it a 9.5. Um, just cause like the more we discussed about this and the more detail that you've presented as a second time viewer, Austin, it makes me appreciate the film a lot more. It's just that one action scene, like the car chase scene, just it just felt so out of place. And I'm trying to think, like I think it could have been, I think the movie could have done without it, somehow. But like, it is important. It is important to have that scene in because they need to further the plot and prevent any like plot loose plot points from happening or plot holes maybe.
Right.
Basically to further the plot more and better. Yeah. Interesting. Gosh. But yeah, I would give it a 9.5. Only because of
I
that I just didn't really. I thought that car chase was out of place.
really bothered you.
I mean, it bothered me, but it wasn't significant. Like,
Hmm.
I guess it was significant enough to not for me not to give it a 10, maybe. It was mainly that that and the puking, the gimmicky puking. But I can forgive the gimmicky puking more because one, it's like I think it's more like a gimmick, a parody of a character who like can't tell a lie, and also like I liked how the characters um, used it to their advantage, or like it was brought up in throughout the film.
Yeah.
as a device, even at the very end when she puked all over him.
Yeah.
Yep, and you're like, oh, she told a lie. Yeah.
Yeah, friend was actually dead.
Dead.
So.
Yep. And and she needed a confession out of him.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was really well done too. But overall, this movie is great. I would highly recommend it. I think both of us would highly recommend it to anyone.
Definitely.
Just like, it's a very enjoyable film. Has a lot of rewatchability. Yeah. It's a mystery film. Mystery thriller, maybe. You can call it that. And it's a nice twist on the whole genre.
It is. And there's all these plot twists within, so definitely recommend it, yeah.
Yep. Highly recommend. Other than that, Austin, do you have any other last comments about the film?
No, I just thought this film, definitely, enjoyable watch it the first time around. But I also think, if you do watch it, it's definitely worth a second time watch, just so you can, maybe appreciate a lot more of the details and elements that, kind of hidden away in the story that you might not have caught the first time around.
That's
you're
true.
Paying attention more to the story.
That's true.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that you, Austin, caught that I did not catch first time watching it. Made me appreciate the film even more. And, yeah. Cool. So, we're gonna Austin and I are gonna figure out what film we're gonna watch next week. I think, we're gonna try to figure out what film we're gonna watch before the stream, so we can announce it during the stream, or at least put it in the chat, so that way people who follow these episodes kind of look forward to it. But I will update the schedule, as always, after we figure out what film we're going to watch. We also have a YouTube channel. If you type in YouTube, Yipatrick, YIPATRICK into YouTube, you'll find our channel with our previous discussions in better quality, if you will, the audio enhanced and shorter, without all the noise. Thank you to Austin for that. And what else? Is there anything? Yeah, tune in every Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific time. We just talk.
Yep.
And then during the chat, if you have any recommendations, you want us to watch a certain film, feel free to let us know in the chat, and we will consider your recommendations. Maybe even watch it. It'll be fun. But yeah, on that note, that's the end of the stream. I hope you guys enjoy watching it and have a great rest of your day whenever you watch it. So, yep. All right.
Bye.
Peace.